Seems like if it's an ACC game at Hard Rock, it's going to come right down to the wire. And so it did once again against the Louisville Cardinals. Talking Miami football here, of course, right here at the Voice of College Football. And appreciate you all being here. Leave those comments and questions in the chat. And here's the guy that makes it all work for us each and every week, Cam Underwood, State of the U. Hey, Cam.
Mark, everybody, what's going on? The day before Thanksgiving, so let me get that out of the way. To you and yours, a happy Thanksgiving. Hope that you all have time off to rest and relax. Show up as your best selves in your lives, at work, all those things. I know that we have a lot going on, but, taking time to focus on those things that we are thankful and grateful for is a thing that we should all do. So I hope that you are able to do that. And as you start that process, we are thankful for you here, obviously, on this show every Wednesday night. So I appreciate that. And again, from me to you and you and yours, peace and blessings.
We will talk Louisville. We will talk Boston College. But Cam, of course, you hit me with 3 news and notes items here. So let's get right to it with Jayvon.
Well, let's start with the Louisville game because that's topical. Okay. That's chronological, and then we'll come back to those things because I know that we'll give people a chance to get their cocktails on a Wednesday night, get in here, message their friends, hey, we're on and everything. So yeah, we'll start with the game and we'll get there. We'll get there.
Well, let's start with this. If we're going to start with the game from last weekend, because the first thing that hits me is 4 shots from inside the 5 from the 3-yard line. With the game on the line, tried Mark Fletcher once, who was again a beast in this game, and then 3 shots with TVD through the air that, off the top of my head, I can only remember the one out route that was short of the goal line, and he kind of threw it in a way that it was just covered up. I'm not going to fault the play calling. I'm not going to fault the plays that were called. I am going to fault the choice of throwing the football 3 times to 1 running play.
I agree. And I know that Louisville was very intent on not letting Miami run the ball for another touchdown. Mark Fletcher had 128 yards and 2 tutties, or 126, 28, whatever. And 2 touchdowns on the day. They were intent on not giving up his third on that. But we were manhandling them at the line of scrimmage, especially in short area situations. And like if you're playing for a tie, kind of, which is like what it looked like before that, to go into overtime because like you want to compress the field and say, hey, from the 25 in, we're bigger, badder, stronger, more physical. That's what we did against Virginia. That was the intent against Virginia and execution, the intent and execution against Clemson. You think, hey, we gotta run it, right? And there was the issue of time as well, but I would have rather seen another run play there, especially if you're going to go for it on 4th down. Which leads me to the choice to take a timeout before 4th down at the 3-yard line. First of all, you should have a play ready if you know you're going on 4th, right? Call the play on 3rd with the 4th down play or a couple options already ready. Mario, after the game, said that he put more value on that timeout on offense to give Shannon Dawson the ability to look at the defense, call timeout, check to the play that he wanted, and then, go from there. That had worked on defense previously in those other games. And I talked about Clemson and Virginia. And then Louisville went and they threw a curveball. They came out in a similar alignment, but with a very different deployment. They were going to go man before timeout, and they went zone. And then, that's where you saw Tyler go, okay, it's man to, whoa, shucks. They're playing zone now. Scramble. And the thing about that is now you leave your defense with only 2 timeouts, which means you're going to have a play that's going to run the full 40 seconds and you're under 2 minutes left. So you're going to have that's basically going to take up almost half of the time that you had if you're able to stop Louisville and, get them to punch you the ball back. So I just disagree wholeheartedly with that decision. You know, I know that you cannot take timeouts with you. It was funny. I was making a joke that, the timeouts that had not been used in the first half this season, that I was going to go on vacation to some, 5-star resort and say, "Oh, garçon, I'm going to order a pina colada, and you can pay for that with the timeout from whichever game." I did not, you know what I mean? Like, I was joking about that in the press box, but like, that's not the time for the timeout. And like, I, what he said about calling it there for that reason, there is validity to that. Right? That is a method of thinking about things, taking the time out before fourth down to ensure that we can get a play versus saving. Not, I mean, first of all, they were standing around whatever, you know what I mean? And letting the play clock run forever. And then, okay, are we gonna go? We're gonna kick, you're clearly gonna go for it. So there was a little bit of that hesitation, but there is a world, or there is a viewpoint where calling that timeout there fits. As I've, opined for a while, I disagree with that viewpoint. There's no way that you take that or that timeout there. I'm fine with leaving Louisville on their own 3-yard line in the shadow of their own goalpost and make them go, and then try to get a stop, go all out on defense, blitz, whatever you got to do. But they need those 3 timeouts because you have to play it that way. You have to look at the fact of you might not score with your perfect play, or what you think was your perfect play, which is what happened. You have to play worst case scenario there. And by that means get on the ball. Even if you take a 5-yard penalty, it's 4th and goal from the 8-yard line. You still got a full playbook worth of options. That's not an untenable situation. I would rather take the 5 yards there and give a little bit more room. So now you have an 18-yard field, 8 yards plus the 10-yard end zone, right? So it opens things up just a little bit, right, in terms of depth, and you save those timeouts for defense. That's where I am with it. So on that, I disagree. So it is kind of subjective that I'm giving Mario demerits for game management for that, but I just so staunchly disagree that I cannot abide by what he did and not grade it down. I'm sorry. Even though I am admitting that there is a universe in which that makes some sense, or I see where he's coming from. I'm not saying this is not when he was trying to throw people under the bus after the Georgia Tech game, right? Of not taking the knee and and we coach 2 hands on the ball. What the fuck did you just say to me? Because you're throwing the player under the bus now? He didn't do any of that. He was very clear about his mindset and intent. I just vehemently disagree with that. So that was an issue there. And yeah, Miami ends up coming up short. Wish we would have had the timeouts, or that other timeout, or the time, excuse me, coming back on offense. And then these late penalties. Good God. You morons. In a touchdown game, you're letting Louisville's talk and them doing stuff because they were chippy all game long. They were pushing, they were needling, they were hitting, they did all that. But then you swing at somebody, you swing back, right? Who gets caught all the time with penalties? The second person, regardless. Dog, Brashard Smith, we had the ball almost at the 50-yard line after that punt. You cannot let your emotions get the better of you there. Anyways, so there were things to like in that performance, but yeah, to your point, specifically at the end of the game, those last little, or that penultimate series really put Miami behind the 8 ball when they finally did get the stop and get the ball back.
So, Kim, of course, your recollection of this sequence is going to be much better than mine. But do you believe that fundamentally there's a difference between saying it's 4th down and we want to make sure that we have the play called and everyone's on the same page, so we are taking a timeout, versus saving all 3 for defense, versus, okay, we're running the play, let's go, and the play clock's ticking, tick, 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 and everybody's not set, and it seemed like there was a bit of a scramble drill, and then all of a sudden, like, okay, call a timeout because we seem to be a bit rushed.
Take the 5.
But I'm just saying that's how it seemed to have played out. Not necessarily that their intent initially was, we need to call a timeout to get this play right. Yeah. It was more like, this is in scramble mode. Let's call the timeout.
But then also to my original point, why are you in scramble mode? Because you know that you need a touchdown there. So you know it's 4-down territory. So after the incompletion on 3rd down, let's get back. Let's look at the sideline. Let's huddle up. Let's do whatever we need to do. We're on the ball. There's no confusion. There is no, hey, are we kicking in? And then it's incomplete pass. Clock starts. We got 40 seconds. Yo, plenty of time. We got this. We're at home. Boom. All good. That to me is where the issue is. Like, why did it look like a fire drill? Why did it look, why is it like that? You should already know we need a touchdown. We're not giving up the ball. So we're not kicking the ball unless it's an extra point, period. So we're going down the field and we're doing what we need to do. Why are we not aligned mentally and strategically on that point? So it gets to the point of fire drill. Oh my God. Oh, timeout. The thing is running down. And again, if I'm Mario, I'm just screaming at everybody and I'm taking the 5 because that timeout was so valuable on defense, regardless if they started 1st and 10 on the 8 or the 3, or maybe, you try to catch them with a draw play and you get down to the 4, wherever they started, the defense getting that stop was imperative. And also you needed the time because you saw that Miami was able to move the ball, even including that Hail Mary at the end of the game. But it all started to fall apart, right? So you don't get the time. Then you get actually decent field position because you stop them on the 5-yard line. You get a punt that's out of the 46-yard line, so near midfield. But then you get a 15-yarder from the spot of Brashard Smith taking a swing at somebody. Now the ball's back on your own 22-yard line. So, all the parts and pieces that could have went wrong did. And it just, I agree with your scenario that it was fire drill-like and all of a sudden frustration or whatever to call the timeout. I just don't think it should have gotten there.
Based on what I've seen out of this defense this entire season, based on the metrics and the advanced metrics and all of it, and based on our conversations, I think you would agree that the defense has been a strong unit on this team. Has been the stronger of the two. Absolutely. Again, I watched almost every play of this game. I'm getting reacquainted with it because by the time we moved from Saturday to Wednesday, I don't exactly recall everything, but 38 points by Louisville. How many of those were, offense, meaning Miami offense initiated, or how much of that was just strictly them getting hit up on defense for 38 points? It was 470 yards of total offense.
Yeah, there were Louisville is a very good offensive team. Brian Brom, offensive coordinator, Jeff Brom, the head coach. They're from Louisville, their legacies and everything. They both played at Louisville. We all know all that. At some point, you have to make adjustments to what your coverages are going to be on defense. And to me, having Corey Couch run into Jaden Davis, taking themselves out of a play, and then, it was a simple bubble screen to Kevin Coleman. Kevin Coleman, former 4-star recruit, looked like he was going to Miami, and then, I'm going to go to Jackson State and play for Deion Sanders. And then Deion Sanders left, and he left also, and, came to the P5 level, and he's at Louisville. So that's who that was, in case you were watching the game. You're like, that name sounds familiar. Yeah, we talked about him. Yeah, 100%. And everything. But it was a simple bubble screen. And they just had, it was an arrow route and a bubble behind it. It's a simple combo. Teams run it all the time. But then you get the, player on player pick, and all of a sudden green grass and open space. And then Cameron Kinchins with I'm sorry, that was a pitiful attempt to try to make a tackle. You stop your feet.
Bad sequence there, actually, because it was only a play or two prior. The tight end just threw him to the ground.
Yeah. Well, that I don't love, but I understand. There's a bigger physical dude being a bigger physical dude, right? You're in space one-on-one as the safety, the last line of defense. So you take pride in playing that position against a speed player on the sideline. All you need to do is get him to touch the sideline. That is your friend. That is an additional defender that will keep him from the end zone. And he does that high step move. You stop, set your feet, and Kevin Coleman saw that oh, gone. Then, like, Cam tries to dive and everything, and the dive was, late. By the time that he got to the point where he thought Kevin Coleman would be, Kevin Coleman was 2 steps down the road, skirting up the sideline for a touchdown. So that one, I would say, was 100% like on Miami players, just all over the field, not doing what they needed to do, whether it was Jaden Davis and Corey Couch or Cameron Kinchins. But yeah, the 3 of your 11, pretty piss poor on that play. So that's 31 that like they earned or whatever. And my God, I said it during the day. I even tweeted it. The next time that Miami covers a Louisville tight end from that game will be the first time. They just did not account. And hey, maybe it's the fact that Miami doesn't use tight ends on offense this year. Maybe they just were not attuned or cued into that for another team. But like every single play that Louisville wanted, tight end was wide open. Whether it was on a shallow crosser, whether it was on a delay, like the touchdown was on a delay. And they it was a little bit of a trick by alignment because they went unbalanced right and left the tight end at the left tackle spot on the left. So they went right, and then they threw it back to him on the left. And it looked like he was, a lineman, not a tight end. But no, he's tight end. But like, yeah, though it was just, for all of the good that Lance Guidry has done, and I do want him to be here, and I want, that defense to continue to learn in this system and style and grow. When like decisive moments happened, Brian and Jeff Brom ate his lunch all day long.
I think I made the comment last week during the show that, I consider this just like Vegas, a toss-up game, but that I wasn't going to overthink it. And I had more confidence in Jeff Brom scheming and Louisville being the team that they've been all year, which has been this scrappy team that does the right things and does whatever it needs to win the game. And Miami certainly have had the games. They haven't been the opposite end of the spectrum. They've pulled out the games against Clemson and Virginia and have won some close games, but not to the degree that Louisville is. They've been much more inconsistent, being a team that's pretty much, if you run down metrics and stats and everything, they're very similar teams.
Yeah.
Not similar in the way they play necessarily, but similar in the quality of their play this year. There's not that much separation.
There's not, but again, to your point, one team has found a way to win, the other team has found a way to lose. And even if you think to yourself, okay, cool, Louisville ran the ball very, very well all year long. So let's take away Jawar Jordan, the ACC leading rusher. This is a guy that's been the foundation of their offense. 9 carries, 33 yards. So you think to yourself, this is a guy who's averaging 99.5 yards a game or 98 yards a game or whatever. He had a couple small games. We had a couple, 120s, 150s this year. That guy we held to 9 for 33. You got to win that game. This Isaac Guerrero backup kid, the lightning to his thunder, they found something and said, hey, he has the juice, right? He has the speed to compete against this Miami defense. 15 for 93 and a touch. Okay. So now, you get 126 and a touchdown between the two, but the one who you thought was the one to really focus on didn't really do much. The other one has almost 100 and a touch. So, and had the average that Jordan had put up on 4 yards short of the average that Jordan put up on the year. Okay. They had 12 receivers catch a ball. 12. And 5 of them played tight end. Well, actually, I'm sorry. It was a tackle eligible play on the touchdown pass because he wears number 70, Sylvester. But James Thrash, 1 catch for 7, right? So you think to yourself, okay, look, your number 1 receiver has a catch for 7. Your starting running back has 9 for 33 when he's averaging damn near 100 and a touchdown and a half recently. But on our side, if I just told you those things going after the game, you think, oh my God, Miami blew them out. but they were a collection. It, like the what is it? The whole was greater than the sum of the individual parts on Louisville's offense. Their quarterback is not good. He's not. But when you scheme guys wide open and you give them easy throws, all of a sudden the numbers look, 24 for 37 for 308 with 3 touchdowns and a pick, 65% completions, or 24 for 39, 327 and a touch. I don't know which one is which. So that means he played to a level that's very comparable to what we saw from Tyler Van Dyke, which was not bad, but Jack Plummer is not good. But then he hits 12 guys and the guys wide open, and all of a sudden, and it's just like dink and dunk and nickel and dime. And then obviously you had the one play to Kevin Coleman, which, whatever, was terrible, for Miami's defense. But it was just a bunch of different dudes. And Joey Gatewood goes there and plays tight end. Joey Gatewood, who was a 5-star quarterback recruit from years back. What? I heard that name after a catch. I said, you got to be, I had to look at my lineup card. I said, you got to be shitting me. This kid from all these years ago is still there, who went to Auburn, but he won state championships in Florida as a quarterback. And all of a sudden, who knew? Nobody until, the middle of this game. But as has been the major modus operandi for both teams this year. One team found a way to get it done, and the other one found a way to come up short.
Now, this week, Miami travels to Boston College in the renewal of another long-standing series that goes back to the Big East days. And another team that the only comparison I'll make to Louisville would be, at least coming off of what they were last year, are finding ways to win games. It's not a very good football team. So Louisville's a good football team that's, delivering the record of a great football team because they're finding ways to win. Boston College is probably a Georgia Tech football team that's, kind of like Georgia Tech is doing the same thing, finding a way to get to bowl play because they're maximizing their resources.
Yeah. And again, this is a team that was a correctly called but heartbreaking face mask away from likely beating Florida State the way that game was going, back in September at the Red Bandana game. I mean, that I was in a bar full of Seminoles that day on a workouting, and I was cheering like the Miami alum I am at their, despair. And I let some expletives fly, but I saw the replay and said that was a face mask. But I know in my heart of hearts, I know for a fact they got that ball back on a punt. They're going down. They get a field goal or a touchdown. They win because Florida State had not stopped them in the second half. But they played that team to that kind of a level, right? Florida State, Miami played them to within a touchdown, and had the ball with a chance to go and tie. So, both teams have played them hard throughout this year. And, Boston College has found a way to, get to the point where, they're in bowl eligibility. Miami needs to go up there and needs to handle business, really just focus on this game on Friday. I know that the team is having Thanksgiving today because they fly out tomorrow, I do believe, to Boston. Shout out to my boy Mike Fay. I thought he was supposed to go to the game earlier. He lives down in Marshfield in the Boston area, but I don't know if he's actually going to get up to Chestnut Hill for this game on Friday with the way that our season is going. But yeah, this will be a test. Miami opened as 8.5-point road favorites there, which translates to 11.5 on a neutral field because you get a 3-point bump at home for performance. That's just your standard, line or whatever. But this, as I've said many a time, Miami is the more talented team. We know that for a fact. This is, it should, if Miami shows up and does what Miami needs to do, this should be a win. This should be a win by, probably double digits. Will Miami, will that Miami show up? Will a Miami that misses tackles? Will a Miami that, loses a turnover battle? What was it, 15-2? It was North Carolina, Florida. It was like something like, I saw somebody tweet it, but like through the middle part of the season, like that kind of a negative thing. And Tyler Van Dyke being responsible for 13 of those 15 turnovers. with 11 interceptions and 2 fumbles in that run of futility. I don't know. I honestly don't. I hope that this team dials in and says, we're going to find a way to win this game, and then turn their sights towards the bowl game, whatever bowl game that might be. But I'm taking nothing for granted this season at all. So we will have to see. Noon on Friday, Black Friday, ABC. So, you get it out of the way quickly, whichever way it goes. But as you are recovering from your gorging feasts tomorrow, early football on Friday. So we shall see.
Well, I will say to the Miami players who are venturing up from what is the current temperature, daily temperature?
78 with a breeze right now.
Okay. High 70s, that feel good about a noon kickoff, because that won't be the heat of the day, but by the time it hits the second half, it will be at 46 degrees and sunny forecasted for Friday, as opposed to a nighttime low of overnight 20 degrees. So it's going to be brisk, but it's not going to be as cold as it could be.
It'll be fall football weather, but regardless, you got to play the game. I remember when I played high school baseball very badly. I love the game of baseball. I am not good. I was good at basketball. I was not good at baseball. But I was fast when I was younger. So I would be on the bench bundled up, but who was always coming off the bench as a pinch runner or courtesy runner? Underwood, why don't you... Bro, like literally bundled up. We had blankets and everything and whatnot. And, like some games we'd be dialed in. Other games, we'd be down 8-0 in the third inning. And I played on a good team. But then the coach would be like, hey, the team over there is playing in the same weather. So what are we going to do? Right? At this point, these are, grown, semi-professional, basic professional people. Like, come on, bro. You can't, a little brisk air should not be that big of a thing. And I know, for the history of Miami going up north and blah, blah, blah. I get it. But at some point, hey, they're playing in the same weather that we are. And maybe that's the Goliath version of the, for an underdog, they put on their pants the same way that we do, and they tie their shoes the same way that we do speech. I don't know. But at some point, you got to go out there and make plays, regardless of the situation. So it's been great weather. We have not made plays. It's been rain. It's been shine. It's been here. It's been there. Go out and win the game. I don't want to hear about it.
I completely agree with you. And, you can always, hit these players' pride in their ability or their perception of themselves and perspective on their career aspirations to go to the NFL and say, you're going to be an NFL player? Well, New York, Buffalo, New England, we can run them all down. Green Bay, you're going to be hitting all those locales.
Yeah, so, and when Denzel Perryman was here and we would go up to Pittsburgh, he would be the first one out, and he would go shirtless throughout warm-ups and everything. And oh my God, that's crazy. Denzel Perryman, who's still in the league. You know what I mean? I know that that's not necessarily causation for those two things. I'm just saying that was a guy who embraced it then, knew that he was an NFL player, and has played in all of these kind of cities and still plies his trade at the highest level. You know what I mean? So, you can be one of those people who's like, oh, I only want to play here and everything. Even if you are Jalen Phillips, Southern Cal kid, goes to UCLA, medically retires from football, transfers to Miami, rebuilds his body, becomes a first-round draft pick, plays for the Dolphins. So we're talking about Los Angeles to Coral Gables to Miami Gardens, right? So all southern tropical things, playing for the Dolphins. Where does he have to play 3 times a year? At Buffalo, at the Jets, and what's the third one? At the Patriots.
Yeah.
In addition to wherever else. You know what I mean? So even if you have that beautiful path of I'm from warm weather, I went to a warm weather school, transferred to another one, got drafted by that team in the same warm weather city, turn up. You still got to go on the road and play in the cold. So again, just go get the job done, please.
I always think of it this way as well. Are you going to suck it up for 3.5 hours? Because you're going to have to live with that result after the 3.5 hours.
Yep.
So it's going down in history. It's in the history books.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to be the result. And 20 years from now, You would have rather thought, you know what, we sucked it up for 3 hours and we got the dub versus we laid down because we were too cold, and now we got to live with a 6-6 season.
I could have ran full out. I could have, as the guy went up the right sideline and I'm on the defense's, or offense's left, I could have ran really hard through the end of that pursuit drill, right? I could have done that and gotten there, but I loafed it and he scored and we end up losing by 4 points. But, if I go over there and, do that, then maybe they kick a field goal and we win by 1. If I had given my effort on that one play, but I did, things like that. So just really, honestly, just dig deep. Leave it all out there, just do. And again, we talked about this before because we've had guys who have, retired for career-ending injuries. You're not, guaranteed to have a tomorrow, guys. I mean, and I'm just talking about in football. I'm not even going further than that, but clearly if you want to talk about that, you can talk about that. But I mean, like, Malik Young, the first player ever to wear the turnover chain. Bang. Like literally just one day, he had one play, neck, can't play anymore. Amon Richards, that one broke my heart. I cried. I cried like he was a family member when I heard that he had to retire medically, because that was 3 years in the first-round draft pick. I mean, this is a phenomenally talented guy, things like that, So you're thinking about like that. I mean, and there's other guys, man. I mean, look, you won't necessarily be on this field again, and like with the transfer portal and, where people want to go or where people are maybe shuttled to go, you might not wear this again. So, like, leave it all out there, man. Let's go.
That's it. Cam Underwood's here, folks. State of the U. Get prepped for the ball game and everything else that they've got going on at stateoftheu.com. Miami hoops and otherwise. Tony is drawing back to the Oregon days for Mario Cristobal to say, Cam, do you think Oregon's better with or without Mario Cristobal? I think they're better without him. Did we hire a recruiter or a head coach?
Oregon was in a better spot when Mario got there. He continued to elevate that program. And in his first turn as a head coach, Dan Lanning has taken that baton and continued to elevate from what there was. So are they in a better place? Yes, but they're just continuing the trajectory that Mario put them on. Again, 2 division championships, a Rose Bowl championship, or 2 Pac-10, 2 Pac-12 championships, a Rose Bowl championship, and they were elevating their recruiting while Mario was there, which is the thing that they have continued doing. I mean, it has continued along an upward trajectory. I'm not going to say it's 100% Dan Lanning. It is a lot Dan Lanning. Don't get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. I'm not trying to discount that. I'm just saying he came into a situation that was already ascending, and he took it, and credit to him. In his first turn as a head coach, hit the ground running, has a very clear, focused mentality and set of operations, and is doing very well. But yes, he is continuing that ascension that was already set in place. Mario's big advantage, the best thing that he does is talent acquisition, recruiting, building rosters. That is a thing. That's why he was National Recruiter of the Year when he worked at Alabama. That's why he has turned around things. Even when he's FIU. You remember Jonathan Cyprian and T.Y. Hilton? Those were under-recruited guys who went to FIU when he was there, got developed, and played in the league for a long time, as well as some other guys. So but the path to growth for this program is through turning over the roster, improving the talent, and with having better talent, you can get better results. But the number one thing is, just reshaping everything. And we talked about this is really year 1. Last year in its entirety was year 0. Not, again, cosmetics. We're tearing everything down to the studs. Hey, maybe, or to the foundation. Maybe we even pour a brand new foundation because we're building a mansion instead of the little 4,000 square foot that was there. You know what I mean? That's the kind of thing that we're doing. So, like, it's not analogous to look at where where Oregon is versus where Miami is, even in terms of the continued ascension with Dan Lanning, because they were on an upward trajectory track already. Now, one could argue, especially because they did go out into the transfer portal after Mario left and got a different quarterback than had been there previously. One could argue that Oregon is potentially better this year with Lanning than they would be this year with Mario. And there's maybe an argument there. Josh Connerly, the left tackle from Seattle Rainier Beach, he was a basketball player. Remember that? Mario was not recruiting him. He's been their starting left tackle for both years. He's a sophomore. He's been the starting left tackle since he set foot on campus at Oregon. So maybe you don't have that player, a foundational player on the offense. Maybe you don't have Bo Nix. Maybe things go a little bit differently. One could make that argument if they wanted to. But holistically better, like completely discounting what Mario did when he was there, I don't think is wise. And also completely discounting what could be done here based on some of the stumbles that have been seen this year, I also don't necessarily think is great. But if you've seen it or heard it before, there is a general mentality of growing and building a program. First, you lose big because you're installing your stuff. You got old players. You got to turn everything over. First step, lose big. Second step, lose close. Why? Because we're taking a step to being competitive. We're improving things. We're getting there, but not almost there. Third step, win close. Now, those things, Georgia Tech, that were, marginal towards losing, we flip those and those are wins. Louisville game, you know what I mean? Like, there's games that, like, okay, we did have 2 close wins, so it's you're seeing a little bit of that, right? But then now we have consistency with close wins, and then you win big, right? So those are the steps, and I think that we can still get there. I know that it will be tough. I know that things are not perfect, but that's my thought on that. I think that we still need time for Mario to get guys in here. And I know people are going to say, well, Brian Brom or Jeff Brom got Louisville to the ACC championship game in the first year there. Good for them. Great work. Okay, we're doing things differently. And again, in terms of the state of affairs, I think it was closer to what they wanted it to be at Louisville versus what Mario wanted it to be. So I'm not going to say it was better, but better for what this staff is doing. It was very different. Kenny Satterfield, or I always say Kenny, Lord Jesus. What is his name? Scott. I always call him Kenny. I have no idea why. Maybe there's a basketball player named Kenny Satterfield.
Yeah,
anyways,
that name does sound familiar. I think somebody should be a Kenny Satterfield, sounds like a defensive back to me or something.
No, he was a basketball player. That's what it was. He went to Cincinnati, played point guard. That's where. Okay. That's why I keep
play in the league.
Yeah, he did.
Kenny Satterfield. That does sound familiar.
Yeah, he played point guard. He played from Rice High School in New York. He played in the league for just a little bit, but just parts of 2 seasons. Anyways, yeah, he was like a superstar recruit. That's why I do that. Okay, cool. Sorry. Scott Satterfield, the structural things with their program were more aligned between Scott Satterfield and the Brahms, right? So it's a little bit of an easier thing versus what Manny Diaz is doing here and what Mario Cristobal is bringing in. They were not at all aligned. So you have a lot to change and do. So I know you can say, okay, well, there's another example and another example. First of all, great knowledge on you if you have all these examples of teams that turn around in year one. And there are many of them. But secondly, that's also just not what Mario Cristobal is doing here. And that's not been our path. So even though there is that disconnect, hopefully with more time, we can get there. But the main thing is going to be rebuilding this roster, regardless.
Yeah, I can
Jeff
think
Lynn's
of a few,
point.
But
No, sorry. To Jeff Lynn's point, unlike Mario, Lanning got the best QB in the portal, which is funny because, I watched Auburn Bo Nix, and he didn't look like Oregon Bo Nix. You know what I mean? And yeah, Miami has struggled in the portal at the positions of dire need. Not necessarily quarterback, although Tyler Van Dyke's season, one could make that argument. But yeah, there have been some hits. Matt Lee, Jayvon Cohen, but there have been some misses, especially at wide receiver. You look around the landscape of college football, there's plenty of dudes, other places that Miami wanted a receiver who didn't come here and then are affecting games in a positive way for their teams elsewhere. Yeah, so we shall see.
Jayvon Cohen was a top 250 prospect in the 2021 recruiting cycle. Top 10 player in the state of Alabama, top 20 offensive tackle. And so he has apparently elected to move on to the NFL.
Yeah, so it was announced a little bit ago or earlier this season that juniors would now be eligible for the Senior Bowl, especially with, the COVID years and everything kind of muddying what being a senior means. Because academically, guys have been in school for 4 years, but they're a fourth year redshirt sophomore, things like that. But in terms of juniors are now eligible for that. Ken Son Monestim, what's up, my boy? Wagwan. But so Jayvon Cohen has accepted his invitation to the Senior Bowl. Director of scouting for the Senior Bowl, Jim Nagy, gave him that, but then also gave high praise to Alex Mirabal, saying that Jayvon Cohen's film looks very much better from this season at Miami than it did previously when he was at Alabama. So credit to Mirabal for growth and development of his players, and congratulations to Jayvon Cohen as he looks to be taking his talents to the next level.
These kind of comments crack me up. Jeremy letting us know that Mario Cristobal has 2 Pac-12 titles and Lanning doesn't have one yet. Well, it'd be kind of difficult for Dan Lanning to have 2 Pac-12 titles since he's had 1 full season at Oregon. That was a successful season. Just didn't win the Pac-12 title.
Fair. I've also seen people, arguing oh, what has Mario won? It's just the Sun Belt Championship when he was FIU, by the way. He has done things well. There are, we still have miles to go before we sleep. Shout out to Robert Frost before, Miami gets to where they need to be as a program. Terrence, man, appreciate you. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours, man.
Cedric Bailey, the Chaminade Madonna Prep quarterback.
Yep.
So what is the scoop on his commitment status?
So this is one that has been talked about for a while. There's all these guys who played with the Miami Gardens Ravens Optimist team that Miami's trying to get because they were an incredible team. And the one of them who did not have an offer was the one who ends up playing quarterback. And if you've seen Jeremiah Smith's Twitter and others, they put up a picture of all 5 of these dudes when they were 8 years old and then 11 years old. And the one in the middle was Cedric. And apparently his parents are very, very tall because he was the smallest one in the 8-year-old. And he's a full head and shoulders above everybody else as an 11 or 12-year-old. And yeah, this kid is now 6, a legit 6'6" quarterback. So if you're trying to get, sometimes you have to play the package deal game, right? In the world of recruiting, you're trying to get a star player. You offer other players at the same school. Now, this is a kid who's a 4-star. This kid who's about to be a 3-time state champion starting quarterback. He's been the quarterback for JoJo Trader, who's committed to Miami, for Jeremiah Smith, the number 1 player in America, wide receiver as well. In there, Davion Goss, the running back in there, Zaquan Patterson, the safety, also committed to Miami. Those guys are all close. They all play together. And I know that we're not necessarily recruiting Goss, the running back, because we have other running backs, but you want all wide receiver options, but won't offer the quarterback, even if you think he's developmental, which I do. This is a kid who's committed to North Carolina State, and then you go out of state and get a 6'6" developmental kid in Judd Anderson when you have a version of that kid around the corner who plays with the top guys that you want. Why on God's green earth did it take till last week Sunday after this last game to make that offer? That one to me is kind of crazy. So having talked to some people, said didn't want Cedric Bailey, the quarterback who did just get offered, kind of made it known he didn't want to be the quote unquote fifth wheel, like the extra one to get, or the fourth wheel to get an offer, just because his friends had gotten offers. But like, you got to do what you got to do if you're Miami, and I don't think that Judd is a stud. I think that he's a developmental guy. I think he's fine. I think that he fits the mold of being a quarterback. So when you take a quarterback a year, he satisfies that, but he's not a game changer in my mind. So if you're getting a largely developmental guy who's going to take 2 or 3 years to hit the field anyway, and they basically fit the same athletic profile, all things being equal, why would you not take the local one, especially from a powerhouse program that you have recruited really well, continue to recruit really well, and need to recruit really well into the future? Why? Because they're going to remain loaded. So I just don't like what, all things being equal, and they're pretty much equal, why in the hell would you not have offered Cedric Bailey and taken his commitment, but instead of Judd Anderson? I don't know. But he did finally get an offer. Then now people are talking about, well, maybe we take 2 in this class. I've been talking about taking 2 transfer guys in this class. So you say, hey, maybe we take 2 prep guys and 1 transfer, because you're probably going to lose 1, if not 2, off of this current roster. So you're going to need to have numbers, things like that. But regardless, this is a development in both Cedric Bailey's recruitment and potentially Jeremiah Smith's recruitment. What I've been hearing about that is not pleasing for Miami. That's all I'm going to say. But regardless, I said, and regardless, not irregardless. I live in Miami. I'm not from Miami. I don't say that. But regardless, I think this is a positive move. I think this is a good offer for Miami. Again, I am not sold on Judd, and I would welcome Cedric as the replacement or the second quarterback, the other quarterback, because I think that they're pretty much equal in this class. But also giving the further foothold into Chaminade as you try to do the impossible and flip Jeremiah Smith, and continue to have his other teammates go. I think that's a smart move. I just think that this chess move is one that maybe should have been employed a while ago in terms of offering Cedric Bailey. But here we are, a month to signing day, and we'll see how it works out.
So based on the way you stated that, it doesn't sound like the Jeremiah Smith speculation is good for Ohio State either.
No, 'tis not, from what I have heard. So maybe things change. Maybe things change on, it would need to be at least one other side from the side that I've heard about. So, I mean, I just don't get how Miami is treating him like a guy and not like the guy in terms of prioritization on several front, recruiting, on NIL, on all these things. Like, oh yeah, like we're just kind of whatever. Like, no. Like, if ever, like, I mean, there's going to be guys every year, right? And like, so there's going to have to be financial output from the collectives every year or whatever. But in those classes, there's going to be a ranking of those dudes. This dude is number 1 with a bullet. I was saying to everybody who would listen, I said, whatever it takes, whatever it costs, go get it done. And I spoke to several people in the press box last Saturday who were like, Miami does not share that mentality. And I said, well, then enjoy watching J4 tear you up from somebody else's sideline, because I don't understand how you're not all in, because he's a transformational prospect. But yeah, does not seem to be going in Miami's direction from what I have gleaned in conversation recently. But we shall see.
Now, of course, we know from the conclusion of the Florida State game that Emory Williams will not be playing quarterback until well after the calendar flips to 2024. And now Tyler Van Dyke is showing pretty obvious signs that he may not be playing football for Miami in whatever bowl game that turns out to be. And Jakari Brown is, of course, in play as, I believe, just a one-time starter for the Canes in one game last season against Clemson. Or Georgia Tech. Two games, yeah. 2 games, Georgia Tech and Clemson. So, my goodness, they're not going to have much quarterback depth in this bowl game.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. And I think it might even come down to the point of like, does Miami play in a bowl game a la the COVID year? Because, yeah, Emory Williams, compound fracture to his arm, has already had surgery. He's out till spring. Tyler, when asked directly this week, was non-committal about playing in a bowl game or next season in Miami. Just said, focused on this week in Boston College and blah, blah, blah. And, the future is the future kind of a thing. So, excuse me, that doesn't bode well. And Jakari Brown already, is very staunch on the fact of like, I don't want to play this year. And I think that's from a developmental standpoint, but also self-preservation, because like, if I don't put out bad film, then like, I can still leverage my athleticism and whatever if I choose to transfer elsewhere. And yeah, at that point, you're looking at a walk-on in the bowl game, honestly, or some wildcat. I mean, we do have guys who were super athletic who played quarterback or wildcat, when they were younger. So, maybe you go, the wild Brashard back there. Pair him, dust off CJ2K, the Chris Johnson, the freshman from Dillard, the running back who's super fast. So you got two fast guys back there. Ray Joseph, done some stuff. I mean, like, maybe you do that. Who knows? But yeah, it looks to be very threadbare moving forward, especially if Tyler, and I'm going to assume that Friday is his last game in a Miami uniform until I hear otherwise. But so yeah, he plays Boston College game, but then says, yeah, thanks, but I'm going to focus on my future. I'm in the portal, or I would think it would have to be the portal, not going to the NFL, because after this season, that don't look like a good move. Jakari, thanks, but I'm really working on developing and taking this as my metaphorical mango season and everything, so I don't want to really ruin that. And Emory, yeah, still has a cast on his arm, so he's not going to play. But yeah, I mean, it looks like, it could really be a walk-on starting for Miami in a bowl game, which I wouldn't love. But look, you get your 15 extra practices. Hopefully you move forward. I mean, I would love to find a way to win said bowl game. There's been projections of the Sun Bowl in El Paso, Texas. Absolutely not. Never again in my life am I going to that terrible, horrible, no good, very bad, godforsaken place. Also, I've seen the Military Bowl against SMU, which would be interesting, with former Miami staffer Rhett Lashley, and Garen Justice, his offensive line coach, also former Miami staffer, being over there, with like 7 Miami transfers starring for SMU this season, by the way, also as well.
And also because it would be a future ACC member.
Exactly. So you have that layered on, seeing that projection as well, which would be interesting. So, we could see that. I don't really think, let me see, bowl options. I'm going back and looking at an old bowl options piece that I wrote, because the ACC used to put out the information in ordinal number, like first choice, second, third, fourth, fifth. They do not have it in the ordinal numbers this year. ACC bowl selection order. They just have it as like all of the bowl affiliations. But they still have them listed from top to bottom. So, like, obviously, the college football playoff for the team, for Florida State, basically, if they make it. If not, then the Orange Bowl for the ACC champion, or the highest ranked team that's from the conference, if they're not in the playoff. After that, the New Year's Six, but we're not going to have 2 teams in the New Year's Six. After that, all these games are listed on the same level, but there's no way, get out of here, that they're actually on there. Which one's in Orlando? Is that the Pop-Tarts Bowl now? Is that what that's called? I think it is.
Called.
I think that's the Pop-Tart Bowl. 5:45 p.m.
Oh, yeah. Yes, versus the Big 12. It used to be the Russell Athletic and the et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Right. So that bowl gets first choice after the New Year's Six. So that sits in its own slot for the selections. So you have the college football playoff, Orange Bowl, and then the former Camping World Bowl. So the Pop-Tart Bowl, that's the one. And then all the other ones in that tier, the ReliaQuest Bowl, the Holiday Bowl, Tax Slayer, Gator Bowl, Tony the Tiger, Duke's Mayo, Bad Boy Motors are in that same tier of bowl. And then when you get down towards the bottom, Military, Fenway, Birmingham, and Gasparilla Bowl. So, we'll see exactly where it goes, where Miami will be slated to play. But in the end, you do need those practices. You need that development because, especially for guys at the bottom of the roster who will be coming back next year, and even like the freshmen who have played big roles, you want to give them the time to develop moving forward. So, yeah, but they might be playing for a walk-on quarterback. And as much as I know this program, as much as I know this roster, there's not an amount in the world that could give me. My hands are here. I'm not typing or Googling anything, so I'm not cheating, right? Not an amount in the world that you can give me to name a walk-on quarterback on this roster.
I hate what's happened to bowl games and the perception of bowl games. I love bowl season. I think it's great. And it used to be something to be, even at lower levels, not just the New Year's Six or what used to be the BCS or the major bowls, but it used to be something to be achieved, something to pursue, something to cherish. I'm looking at the Pop-Tart Bowl, which I had forgotten that it was changed to the Pop-Tart Bowl, which has been the Kellogg's Bowl, the Camping World Bowl, the Russell Athletic, the Champ Sports, the Mazda, the Florida Tourism for 1 year. I don't remember that name. Okay. The Micron PC, the CarQuest, and the Blockbuster was the original 1990 version.
Blockbuster. That's a throwback.
Yeah, the Blockbuster Bowl.
Okay.
And I believe Miami played in a Micron PC Bowl against Virginia.
Sounds about right.
96, 97.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
All right. Pop-Tart Bowl.
Aristides Angelo Jr., Ripley Luna, Jaden George, Joe Borchers. Anybody feel comfortable with that? Any of those players leading your team into a bowl game? Because those are the names of the walk-on quarterbacks. Cool. Yeah. Sounds good, right?
I never really understood the decision-making process of a walk-on.
I mean, look, you want to continue to be associated with your sport and have the time to be able to do that. Also, that can be a great pathway into working in sports or with your sport. You know what I mean? So whether it's in, the front office, whether it's in coaching, things like that,
Sure.
My boy Mike Fay, he tried to walk onto the baseball team in Miami a couple of times. He loves baseball and things like that, and just wanted to stay connected, even if he wasn't a recruited athlete. So, I mean, and you need numbers, so you get, great experience and connections and things. So, especially somewhere at Miami where you have all the alums and infrastructure coming back all the time. Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah, I just see it as a huge time commitment, and you could go somewhere else, obviously, and you could go to lower levels and get a scholarship.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was thinking when I decided to go to Miami that I would, well, actually at that point I already got injured, but I was going to try to walk on wherever I went if I didn't, hurt my ankle in high school. And like I said, I got one singular scholarship offer, which was immediately revoked after I got injured because I was to the bottom of their board, which is fine. But it was a thing. And Miami basketball then was not great. So even at my middling level of talent, but I was all right. Could have made it because there was a guy who made it. I'm not going to call his name. If you're around my age, but even with a bad wheel, I hooped him up in the wellness center repeatedly. And then this guy makes the team. But then our senior year, our roster was so thin that this walk-on kid who, again, I balled up repeatedly in the gym, let it be known, played major college basketball minutes, in the ACC. So it could happen. So, hey, just the ability to stay connected as long as possible, I guess.
Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there. We appreciate your support. We appreciate you being here each and every week. Of course, if you just jumped on here in the last 15 or 20 minutes, whatever the case might be, which many of you have, as the number has swelled here just in the last few minutes, this is often the case. Please go back and watch what you missed. Cam, what's going on at State of the U?
Honestly, we're all taking it a little bit slow this week to focus on ourselves and our families. I know that Mike Schiffman has already put up this week in Canes basketball, which is our feature on men's and women's basketball, because both teams are very good. Both teams are ranked, and the men are number 10 in the nation. So he put that up, and also the men's basketball team just won the Baha Mar basketball championship in the Bahamas last weekend. So congratulations to them for that. Gotten to hoist their first trophy of hopefully several this season. And we'll have all of our, normal pregame stuff. Might come out at random times. Who knows? I haven't even written my, stuff, but we will look at that. But taking a second, to focus on ourselves and our families. So whatever we have up there, obviously will be great. But just like you, we're real people. So we want to be able to spend time with those that we hold near and dear. So again, I said at the top and say it again, love and appreciate everybody. Peace and blessing to you and your families. Be sure that you come over and fan with us. StateOfTheU.com, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The State of the U. My personal Twitter account is at Underwood Sports. And we shall see you soon.
Thank you, Cam. Always appreciated. Have a great holiday.
You too.